Hi, I'm Jeff Briggs and welcome to the first in the series of Northern Authors, where we'll be discussing the lives and works of, as the name suggests, writers based in the north of England. It's going to be the series where we get under the skin of writers putting the north of England on the literary map. And today I'm sitting down with Colin Youngman, a popular and prolific crime author whose sharp, no-nonsense storytelling has earned him a very loyal following. We'll be talking about what drives his writing, where his darker characters come from, and how the North East has shaped his work. Right, Colin, let's find out a little bit about you. When, at what stage, did you decide that you wanted to be a writer? What was it that prompted you to want to write?
I think the answer to that would probably be as soon as I finished reading my very first book. I thought the storyline was about a fire engine, that's all I remember about it. And I thought, that's absolutely wonderful. I like this, read and knock. So then, the next big point in this journey, if you like, was when I wrote a letter to a children's comic. And I won a 10-bob postal order, showing me age off there, and a transistor radio. But most importantly, I saw my name in print on the pages, and I thought, wow, this is canny, this is me. And then I think the next thing was when I read the best book I've ever read in my life, which was Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. And I was about 12 or 13. I read all 3 books, the entire trilogy, in one weekend, without stopping barely for sleep or food or drink. I was just so mesmerised by the fact that words on a page could transport me into this obviously mythical world, and yet it seemed so real, and that really hooked me. And even more so when I finished, I checked the pages. I'd read 1,500 pages or thereabouts, and each one of them was different. But they all every different page came from the same 26 letters, and that's when I realised the possibilities were endless, and it was just mind-blowing, really. So that was what triggered my thought process about, well, should I be a writer or should I not? And then I got a kick again, probably when I was about 17, I think, and a teacher marked my mock A-level paper, and he flung it back in my face and said, "Youngman, you'll never get anywhere with a writing style like yours." And that's what I call my J.D. Wetherspoon moment. The founder of the Wetherspoon pub chain called it Wetherspoon after his old headmaster, who said something very similar to him. And I thought, right, Mr. So-and-so, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to start writing and I'm going to prove to you that I can do it. I wrote on and off for several years, just contributing to sports magazines. Funnily enough, alongside a current crime writer, Howard Linsky. I did travel guides, I had a couple of things published in national newspapers. But then life happened, and I stopped writing. Basically, it was always an ambition of mine. I stopped writing until I took partial retirement, and then bingo, that's when I thought, let's go for this, let's go for it in big style. And I did.
You set your books, your stories in the northeast of England. What is it about this region that makes you want to write about it?
It's a place I love. It's got so many possibilities with its wonderful coastlines, all its landmarks, and its fabulous people. So it's got everything you need to write a book. Most importantly though, I think, is that it's where I know. They tell you should write about what you know, and I know very little expertly about a lot of subjects, but I do know a lot about the North East. I had a story which I began many moons ago, and I had to jack it in because I just could not get the setting right. Nothing seemed to fall into place. So I revisited that story and I set it in places I know, streets I know, villages I know, pubs I've got drunk in, places I'm interested in, and all of a sudden that story suddenly fell into place, and many years later that initial half-baked idea suddenly became The Angel Falls, which is the first novel in the Ryan Jarrod series. It was set in the North East, so I thought, right, everything has got to be set in the North East that I do from now on.
You're best known for your Ryan Jarrod crime series. Tell us how you developed the character. Where did he come from? Who is Ryan Jarrod?
The main character, they say don't base characters on real people, and honestly I don't. But as I've mentioned before, I don't know, I'm not an expert at any subject, so the things that I do know are the things that Ryan Jarrod knows. To a point, he started off as a civil servant, which I had as a proper job, if you can call it that, for many, many years. He's a follower of Newcastle United, as I am, through thin and thinner. He likes to drink in local pubs, which I do too. So although in no way is his character like mine, the things that Ryan Jarrod is interested in, or the things that I was interested in, that is how he began. And as he begins to develop his character, the relationships with his fellow characters develop too. And so really they all flow into one, but they've got their own, definitely got their own characteristics.
There's quite a few crime writers from the northeast of England. What is it that you do to set you apart from the competition?
You're very right there, that there is an awful lot of competition these days. It seems to be in place to write crime thrillers. There must be something about the region that attracts people to murder, I think. But I am conscious that there's a lot of competition. We all have our own styles, all the various northern authors. But there's something that I do very particular, which I don't think all of the other local authors do, and that is that I try to make them very real. I don't sugarcoat the region, I bring out the beauty of it, but there are some deprived areas, and I don't sugarcoat that, as I say. If I'm writing about a rough area, then the area remains as it is. I use real towns and real villages, I don't make names up. Right down to street names, I use actual street names that people live in. If I use a house number, it's a number which I know doesn't exist because I don't want to be sued by somebody who murdered someone in their own house. So I'll make the numbers up. But the pubs I mentioned are real pubs in the region. Most businesses are actual businesses which exist in the region. And I like to keep them in close proximity. You don't have somebody getting on the metro at South Shields and then 2 minutes later walking past Blythe Docks or somewhere like that. The timescales are real. And in fact, I know I get that right, and it's a great pride of mine that I've had readers from far fields, Australia and Canada, who say they read my books with Google Maps open so they follow the action. I thought that was really bizarre at first, but when I thought about it, I take it as a huge compliment that actually they can follow in real time the path of the story, if you like. I also vary the crimes up a bit. I love a good murder, me, who doesn't? But they do evolve. I have drug rings as the main storyline in one. I have people traffickers. I have financial scams. I try to make every crime and every book a little bit different in style while keeping true to the characters. I might have a police procedural, I might have a thriller, I might have a mystery, I might have a touch of horror. So each book is slightly different both in terms of the crime and the style of writing.
Where do you draw inspiration for your storylines? How do they develop? How do your storylines start? And basically, where do they come from?
Oh, inspiration. I don't plot or don't plan my books. All I do is I start off with where a story's going to start, and I end up with the climax of the story. But in between, because I've got to know the characters so well, the journey's like a bus journey. You get on the bus and you know where you're getting off, but your journey is decided by the bus driver. And my stories are driven by the characters. They're very much character based as well as story based. But the initial idea I can draw from anywhere. I've got a really, really strange mind. I think a lot of writers do. And just a quotation can spark off an idea. All my books start with quotation, and they are often the basis or the theme, if you like, of the story. It could be a song lyric. It could be something I've seen on TV. It could be something I've seen on the internet. And I have to say that my internet browsing history is somewhat of a concern, because when you're deciding how you can kill somebody with a blowtorch, or how long it would take somebody to be buried alive, to die, you do have to get your research right. But if MI5 or anybody else decided to interrogate my browsing history, I think I could be in a bit of bother.
Now this may be a bit of a difficult question for you, but which is your personal favourite book in the entire series? Which one stands out for you?
The silly answer to that is the next one, and that's because I like writing so much that whatever stage I'm at, the next book is always my favourite. In reality, I would say The Angel Falls is not my best book by any stretch of the imagination, but because it set me off on this journey, it always has a special place in my heart. I also like Lowlight, which is the 6th in the series, because that involved getting out and about and visiting a lot of places I knew from my childhood to refresh my knowledge of the place. I enjoyed that one. Probably the one that's most different is Bones of Galilee. It's arguably my least read book compared to all the others, but it's different and I like it because it's based on a true story, and it's set in the village I'll always call home. The true story is that a friend of mine bought a new house in a street named after the Galilee of the title, and when renovating his kitchen he stumbled across some bones and shotgun cartridges underneath the floorboards. And again, where do I draw inspiration from? I thought that would be a great idea for a story. So it grew very, very much from that story. So I loved that one. And I also like my most recent one, Metro, because it is a little bit different. It brings a bit of horror into the scheme of things. And it's also done pretty well in the book charts, so I like Metro. So they would probably be my 3-4 favourite books in the series.
So what's next for Ryan Jarrod? Where does he go from here? What happens in your next book, for instance?
The Ryan Jarrod series is again perhaps a little bit different to some of other Northern crime writers because it follows his career. When we first meet him in The Angel Falls, he's a bit of a peripheral character really. He's just a special constable, but his input into the crime marks him out as a high flyer. He suddenly decides to join the police force. The story follows his relationships through the crimes. It develops how he gets on with his characters, how the crimes that he investigates changes him and changes his relationships with the characters. Michael Connolly said a good crime novel is not how a detective works the crime, it's how the crime works on the detective. And we see Ryan changing as he grows into his character, as he investigates deeper and deeper into more sordid crimes. So we have to take on board what's going to happen next for Ryan Jarrod. He's become an acting detective inspector in the latest book, and we just wonder, is he going to carry on working in this line, or does he decide that fatherhood and relationships is the thing for him to go? So I'm not going to spoil the plot, as Kenny Everett might have said, but there is a future ahead for Ryan Jarrod, and I may also bring in a second character, or a second subplot if you like, involving the forensic pathologist and friend Aaron Elliott, so Ryan may become a fringe character in a spin-off series. Who knows? You will have to keep reading.